Mr Speaker.
Reno Tirakatini.
Kia ora, Mr Speaker. I'm pleased to make a contribution at the first reading of this bill. As previous speakers have noted, I guess this bill is only a few pages long, and it doesn't have a big subject matter, but it does have quite an impact on New Zealand families, sir. And as Mr David Shearer mentioned in his contribution, sir, we've got on this side of the House, we have no issue with New Zealand meeting its international treaty obligations, and our reputation internationally is very important, and so maintaining 90 days of supply of oil supplies to our country primarily through ticket contracts is something that we must uphold as a country. So we have no issue with that. We do have issues, sir, with the increase, the targeted approach to this piece of legislation, sir. It will be targeting families who will be, ultimately it will lead to increased costs for families at the pump. And I know, travelling around my vast electorate, if you go to places like Kaikoura or, Mr Speaker, down in Southland and Vicargo, it's the cost of filling up. The cost of filling up is a significant cost on already stretched household budgets, and this legislation, unfortunately, sir, will add to that cost because the oil companies, who are the importers of petroleum, of our fuel, will be paying an increased levy through to the Customs Department. And I wanted to focus, sir, on the actual appropriation for maintaining our treaty obligations is around currently $3 million a year. And the projections through to outer years, I think over to the next 3, 4, 5 years, is that will go up to about $10 million a year. So there is a big shortfall there. There is a big shortfall, and that's largely due to the forecasted decline in our domestic oil production. So to meet that shortfall, the government has decided to go for this targeted approach. But based on those predictions, sir, it could be the levy rate, which can be modified by order in council, can be modified at whim, and who knows how far or how big this liability would be to actually maintain our obligations, sir, through the purchase of these ticket contracts. And I was fascinated to learn, sir, that of course maintaining 90 days of oil supply for the country in case there was a disruption worldwide to the oil is a means of securing that for our economy, because we know, sir, that our whole economy is dependent upon the power that drives everything. And although we want to see a transition to more renewable sources of energy, at the moment we know that fossil fuels are the primary source of fuel that power our primary production, our export sector, our tradable sector. And so it's very important that should these shocks eventuate, and we certainly hope they do not, that our country, through its agreements with partners, is able to open up those supply lines and, I guess, cash in our ticket options, cash in our tickets, so we can get those supply lines secure, so we can keep the fuel pumping for, hopefully not as long as 90 days, but keep the fuel pumping so we can keep our economy moving. So, but the point I wanted to make, sir, is that the government had a choice. The government had a choice to have a targeted levy to target the motor vehicle users or people that actually fill up at the pump, or they had a choice to stick to the status quo and raise the relevant appropriation from general taxation. The government chose the latter, but here on this side of the House, sir, we think it is fair because there is that it should continue to come out of public taxation, general taxation, because it is a public good. It is a public good that everyone benefits from, that we comply with our international obligations, and that we also, and we certainly hope it doesn't eventuate, but we certainly hope that if it does arise where we need to call in our emergency supplies and to make sure that we can get those 90 days of fuel, that those supply lines are available to us. So, yeah, we regret that the government chose to take the targeted route. I know that the government had consulted with various stakeholders in the industry, principally the oil companies, and I guess for them, they already pay their levies to customs in terms of importation duties and the like, and so this probably won't upset their business in a way. It would just add an additional cost, which we know that they will immediately pass on to the end consumer. And that, sir, is, again, I return to the point, from Invercargill up to the folks in South Auckland, right throughout the country, this is going to mean an increase at the pump. Families have seen it significantly over the past year or in years prior, but it's definitely going to be another shot in the arm, and a strain on the household budgets, particularly for those families out there. And we know that a significant number of our population, are doing it tough. Whether you're a working family or our non-working beneficiary type families who are out there, everyone's doing it tough, and it's a luxury for many people to have a vehicle. But, again, they'll be thinking twice. They'll be thinking twice about whether they'll be able to afford to fill it up. So in one sense, I guess, yes, sure, we want to encourage, I guess, more use of public transport and other greener ways of getting around, but ultimately we don't want this to impact on our economy. And who knows, this is going to mean increased costs right the way through the supply chain of all our industries, and ultimately it's going to be an increased cost. And we know that fuel cost is a significant cost on every business, and so it'll be interesting what the ultimate impact will be, whether by maintaining our obligations this way, whether it will impact on on our business performance across definitely those sectors which are highly dependent on fuel costs. So that just another final issue I want to raise, sir, is that the government has spoken a lot about us, about New Zealand adhering to its IEA obligations, and it's our reputation that's at stake. But I sort of think it's quite ironic, sir, that the government is so concerned about our international obligations in the maintaining emergency supplies of oil, which I guess is, it is an international obligation, but I wouldn't think that it really rates in terms of other international obligations which we have, sir, particularly around climate change. And I just find it ironic that the government is so preoccupied that it's going to all of this, great expense and effort to bring about this piece of legislation to introduce this targeted levy, when they have done nothing about what our international reputation is, to our clean green image, and also action on climate change. And I know I've got other colleagues who will be adding more contributions in that area, but I wanted to just make that final point, sir, that yes, it seems that the government is focusing on what is perceived to be little things, because in the scheme of things, it's a $3 million cost at the moment. We're going through all of this to basically load onto the end consumer an increased cost of fuel for what is, though, sir, only a few $1 million. So I really think when you look at the grand scheme of things, our IEA obligations It doesn't really rank up there, sir. And I know Australia hasn't met their obligations. They've got to wrap over the knuckles, but it's not the end of the world. So we oppose this bill, sir, and we look forward to hearing contributions at the Select Committee level. Kia ora
Mr.
tātou.
Speaker.
Gareth Hughes.
Kia ora, Mr. Speaker. Ngā mihi nui kia koutou.